What I want to talk about today is if you use prayer as a strategy, like to keep you safe when you're writing. I want to give like my experiences of when prayer has worked, and times where prayer has didn't work, where I didn't get an answer. So today I want to give like my take on how prayer works, when it works, and why it doesn't work sometimes. I believe that like God answering prayer is real, like not just for riding a motorcycle, but in everything in general life. I believe that God does answer prayer, and I believe it's real. But what I don't want is the typical take of non-believers, which say, well, you know, they prayed for something a long time ago, and God didn't answer their prayer, and like even if it's something really important. And so they have that take of, you know, I prayed and it didn't work. I've had a lot of prayers that didn't work. I've had a lot of prayers in my life that didn't get answered at all. I've had other prayers where like I got an answer, I got a clear like supernatural answer, but it wasn't the answer that I wanted, or it wasn't what I was praying for, you know, or I didn't get my way. Like, so I know what it's like to have prayer not answered. But I still believe in prayer because of the experiences that I did have, or the ones where my prayers did get answered. So anyway, welcome to my channel where we talk about bikes and Bible verses. And as usual, we're going to have a Bible verse at the end, so please stick around for that. But the first thing I want to talk about is, like, why do I believe in prayer when I've had so many prayers not answered? And to explain this, I want to give you like an analogy. I want to give you an analogy from like an 80s Bollywood movie. So this was a movie I watched like over 30 years ago, right? And so what happens in the movie was there's these two kids. One is like a rich kid, and this rich kid has like a servant, and the servant is the same age. Like they were like friends, but it was, you know, the rich kid and his servant. You know, everywhere they were always together, like they were like best friends. And the rich kid was privileged enough to go to school, and so the servant kid would also come along with the rich kid, you know, all the lessons. And this rich kid started to realize that his servant is incredibly intelligent. Like he's this intelligent genius. You know, when they're like walking home from school, he's, you know, this servant kid is reciting the whole day, you know, everything they learned, you know, explaining everything. And so the rich kid goes and tells his teachers, and he says, you know, my servant, he's like super genius. And the teachers come and they try to test him. So they give him like you know, a poem, a long poem to recite, and this kid, he doesn't say anything, he doesn't comply, he doesn't want to answer. And you know, so the teachers can't prove, you know, he's not complying to what the tests that the teachers are giving him. And the teachers are like yelling at him and slapping him, and there's just no response at all from this servant kid. But the example here is, does that disprove that this servant was a, you know, super intelligent kid just because the teachers couldn't prove it? Could you like tell the rich kid that, you know, his servant's not a genius? See, even though the servant didn't prove it at that time, the rich kid still knows that, you know, his servant's a genius. And sometimes I see this is how some non-believers do the same thing when trying to prove God. Like the very concept, whether you believe in God or not, just it's a concept. God is a concept of a supernatural being, a super intelligent being, which is much higher level than a human. And yet I think some non-believers try to take this approach of trying to prove God. You know, God doesn't need to comply. And that's kind of how I see it. Like there's a lot of times where God didn't answer my prayer. He just blatantly didn't. But like the rich kid, I know that God answered prayers because I've seen. Even though he didn't answer at a certain time or for a certain thing, I know that, like, just like the rich kid knows that his servant's a genius because it's been proven. He doesn't need to always prove it. He already knows. And that's kind of how prayer, I see, for me, that's how prayer is. Another thing is that one proof that I don't agree with, that prayer is real, is like if someone says, I've been writing for 30 years and I've been praying and I haven't crashed. That to me is not proof. A non-event of something not happening is not proof. You've got plenty of people who don't pray and they've been writing for 30 years and nothing happens to them. And you've got people who do pray and something still happens to them. On a side note, if you do want to prove God's existence, that he answers prayer, pray for patience.
Let me ask you something. If someone prays for patience, you think God gives them patience? Or does he give them the opportunity to be patient?
I dare you to pray for patience. That is a prayer that God always answers. I'm convinced that everything that happens, anything good or anything bad, particularly anything that bad happens for one of two reasons. One, it was God willed it to happen. It was meant to happen because God willed it to happen. Two is that it happened because of your own or our own disobedience to God, or our own sin, and we fall into misfortunate stuff because we do the wrong thing. And the other thing is we're not out to test God. I pray that God keeps me safe when I ride. I pray that God keeps everyone safe, but I still wear the gear. I still do training. I still ride safe. I don't excessively speed and stuff. I mean, sometimes I do, but I'm not out to test God and say, I pray that God's going to keep me safe, therefore I can do whatever I want to do. No, I think we need to have a humble spirit and say, I pray that God keeps everyone safe. I pray that God keeps me safe when I ride. I pray God keeps everyone who rides safe. But I'm not out to test God. And the other thing that I've learned is if something is destined to happen, if something bad is destined to happen, it's going to happen whether you ride or not. You cannot run away from danger by not riding. That is a lesson that I've learned in life. You can't just, run away and try and be safe. You can't just run away to safety. If something bad is going to happen, it's going to happen whether you ride or not. I believe it's sort of destined to happen. For any of those reasons that I mentioned before. There's 1,000,001 ways that a misfortune can happen to someone. You can't just sort of run to safety by not riding, and you can't hide from danger. That is something that I really, really believe and have seen time and time again. If something's destined to happen, it's going to catch up with you whether you ride or not. And that's why you need to be close to God, so that he will work in your life. Lastly, I believe that just because you're in God's will, it doesn't mean nothing bad is going to happen to you. This idea of having every prayer answered and life being perfect, that's like a Sunday school idea. We need to move past that stage. There are a few things that are destined to happen. That's why we're here on earth. Earth is full of pain and hardships and sorrows. The Bible doesn't promise an easy life. Actually the Bible says that when you follow God, life can be harder. I believe we're here on earth to grow and mature, and to learn to be compassionate. And I think those things come by going through hardship, going through pain, and knowing what it feels like. And I believe us here on earth is a lesson. We are learning. We're going through all this pain, suffering. So anyway, that's all I've got today. So we'll end with the Bible verse, and that's from Matthew chapter 10, verse 28 to 30. And it says, "Do not fear those who kill the body but cannot harm the soul. Rather fear him who can destroy both the body and the soul in hell. Are not 2 sparrows sold for a penny? And not one of them falls to the ground without your Father's will. But even the hairs on your head are counted. So this is a Bible verse, I think, that summarizes a lot of what I'm talking about, where everything is in God's hand and everything is for us to learn. And I think we're just here to pray and open ourselves to what God's will is. But I also do believe that we need to also learn the lesson of being far away from God, and knowing that, you know, being far away from God leads to destruction, whereas being in God's will, even though it's still not easy, and even though bad things can still happen, it's in God's will, and you know He counts every hair on your head, and He's a good Father, and you know we're just preparing and learning to get to the next stage of our life. So anyway, that's all I've got. So don't forget, please, if you like this video, hit the like button and make a comment. Tell me what you think. Do you believe that God will protect you when you write? Do you pray for that? Has God confirmed to anyone that He will protect you while you're writing? And if you like my content in general, please subscribe and take it easy and write safe.